Imagine walking into any room and instantly knowing who's in charge, who's nervous, who's lying, who's hiding something, and who's genuinely happy to see you. Imagine understanding people so deeply that their words become secondary. Their posture, their expressions, their eyes, their tone, all of it becomes crystal clear to you. No one can fake it around you. You see the truth beneath the mask. This is the power of reading people. And in a world filled with noise, distraction, deception, this power isn't just useful, it's unstoppable. Let's be honest. We're all constantly trying to figure each other out. Does she really like me? Is he telling the truth? Can I trust this person? Will they say yes to my offer? What's going on in their head? The problem is, we're often guessing. We're relying on what they say. But words are easy to fake. It's the subtle stuff, the body language, the microexpressions, the energy shifts, that tell the real story. And once you learn to read that story, people become an open book. Now, you might be thinking, but aren't some people just naturally good at reading others? Yes, but the truth is, this is a trainable skill. Like learning to read music or play a sport, once you understand the patterns, you can master the game. Social cues are everywhere. Most people just don't notice them. You will. Here's what's wild. Most communication is nonverbal. Scientists estimate it's as high as 93%. That means tone, gestures, eye movements, posture, even silence. They all say more than the words ever could. When someone's nervous, they may say they're fine, but their fingers fidget, their breath quickens, their smile is tight, their shoulders rise. When someone's confident, they don't need to announce it. You can feel it in how they enter a room, in the way they speak, in how they pause and wait. Reading people means picking up on these signals and interpreting them accurately. You're no longer lost in confusion. You stop being the one who's always surprised by others' behavior, because you already saw it coming. Think about how much easier life gets when you can read people. In conversations, you know when to push and when to listen. In business, you see who's bluffing and who's serious. In dating, you spot attraction or disinterest within seconds. In negotiation, you detect doubt before they speak it. In conflict, you calm tension before it explodes. You become the person who always seems to get it. But here's the secret. It's not mind reading. It's pattern recognition. And like any skill, the more you practice, the sharper you get. You start to notice how people behave when they're lying versus when they're sincere. You catch the way their energy shifts when you say something that hits a nerve. You feel the hesitation, the excitement, the fear, without them saying a word. And that gives you options. You can adapt your message on the fly. You can ask better questions. You can say the right thing at the right time. You can walk away from bad deals before they happen. In essence, you gain social leverage. And in today's world, that's everything. Because people don't buy from the best product. They buy from the person who understands them. People don't follow the smartest leader. They follow the one who makes them feel seen. People don't open up to anyone. They open up to someone who reads between the lines. Here's something else. When you read others well, you protect yourself. You stop wasting energy on people who drain you. You recognize manipulation faster. You dodge drama before it starts. And you never again fall for someone's carefully polished mask. That's not paranoia. That's awareness. Now let me tell you why this is more important than ever. We're living in a time where everyone's performing. On social media, in conversations, even in relationships. People are constantly curating their image. Everyone's trying to be liked, to be approved, to be impressive. That means there's more acting than ever. But no matter how good someone is with words, their body always tells the truth. And that's your edge. That's your power. When you become fluent in the language of behavior, people reveal themselves, whether they mean to or not. And once you see the truth, you can respond with clarity, power, and presence. You'll no longer guess who's real. You'll know this doesn't just make you smarter. It makes you magnetic. Because people can feel when you understand them, when you really get them. They feel safer around you. They open up. They trust you. And that's when influence begins. That's when persuasion becomes effortless. That's when your presence starts changing rooms. Not because you're loud, but because you're aware. So let's zoom out. What you're learning here isn't just tricks or tips. You're rewiring how you see people. You're shifting from surface to substance, from guessing to knowing, from reacting to responding. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding. And when you understand others, how they think, feel, move, and hide, you gain an unfair advantage in every part of life. This is why reading people is the ultimate superpower. It's not loud. It's not flashy, but it's powerful beyond belief. Because when you know what someone's really feeling, even when they don't say it, you can shape the moment. You can change a conversation. You can lead with precision. And you can protect your peace while doing it. By the end of this book, you'll be able to do just that. You'll see what others miss. You'll speak to what others feel. And you'll move through the world like someone who's already read. Before we dive deeper into reading people like a book, we need to understand why social cues exist. Why do people smile when they're nervous? Why do their feet point away when they want to leave? Why do their arms cross when they feel threatened? It's not random. It's biology. It's psychology. It's evolutionary survival playing out in real time. Our bodies are constantly speaking, even when our mouths are silent. And it all starts with the brain. Your brain and everyone else's is wired for one thing first: survival. Long before we learned to speak, we had to read each other. Are you a threat or a friend? Do you come with peace or danger? Are you safe to be near or should I run? These questions had to be answered instantly with no words. So over thousands of years, humans evolved to send and receive messages through facial expressions, body movements, voice tone, and more. Fast forward to today. We're not dodging tigers, but our biology hasn't changed much. That same survival system is still active. It's reading posture. It's tracking tone. It's scanning for signs of safety or discomfort. This system lives in a part of the brain called the limbic system. Think of it as your subconscious radar. It's always on, always scanning, and always faster than logic. It's what gives you a gut feeling about someone within seconds. That's not magic. That's your biology doing its job. Now, most people don't realize this, but the limbic brain can't lie. The conscious brain, the part that speaks, reasons, and plans, can say whatever it wants. But the body, the tone, the micro movements, they're run by the subconscious. And that's where the truth leaks out. That's where social cues are born. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone says, "I'm fine," but their tone is flat. Their eyes avoid yours. Their shoulders are raised and tight. Are they really fine? Of course not. Their words said yes, but their body said no. And the body always tells the truth. This is why learning to read social cues gives you such an advantage. It puts you ahead of the words. It shows you the emotion beneath the sentence. You start noticing how people truly feel before they ever admit it. Now, let's break it down into categories. There are 4 main types of social cues. Facial expressions. The face is the most expressive part of the body. There are 7 universal facial expressions: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust, and contempt. These show up on everyone's face across every culture, and they're almost impossible to fake perfectly. Even professional liars leak microexpressions. These are tiny flashes of emotion that appear for less than a second. You'll learn how to spot them in later chapters, but just know for now, the face never fully hides how we feel. Body posture and movement. How someone stands or sits tells you everything about how they feel in the moment. Are they open or closed? Relaxed or tense? Leaning in or pulling away? Movement patterns often show comfort or discomfort. For example, crossed arms don't always mean someone is being defensive, but paired with tight shoulders and a turned body, it might. Posture shows status, confidence, fatigue, stress, even interest. Learn to read the whole picture, not just one gesture. Eye behavior. The eyes are often called the windows to the soul for a reason. Eye contact reveals attention, attraction, discomfort, and even deception. Too much eye contact may signal aggression. Too little may signal avoidance or anxiety. Rapid blinking, looking down, darting side to side. These are all cues. Combine them with facial expressions, and you'll read people like subtitles. Tone of voice and speech patterns. This is often overlooked, But the way someone says something matters as much as what they say. Is their voice fast or slow? High-pitched or deep? Is there tension in their throat? Do they pause or rush? These vocal cues indicate confidence, fear, stress, excitement, uncertainty, or anger. You'll start to hear the real story behind people's words once you tune into this. Now, here's what matters most. Social cues don't work in isolation. You can't just see crossed arms and assume someone's closed off. Context is everything. Maybe they're cold. Maybe that's just how they sit. But if their arms are crossed and their jaw is clenched and they're avoiding eye contact, now you've got a cluster of cues. That's the key. Look for patterns. Look for consistency between what's being said and what's being shown. This is where the term congruence comes in. When someone's words and body match, they're congruent. When they say, "I'm excited," and their eyes light up, their tone is energetic, their body is forward, you believe them. But when they say, "I'm excited," with a flat tone, dead eyes, and a slouched posture, your brain says something's off. That's incongruence. And it's one of the most powerful signs that someone isn't being fully honest with you or with themselves. So why does this matter? Because the brain craves certainty. We feel safe when people are congruent. We trust them. We relax. But when people are incongruent, even if we don't know why, we feel it. Something feels off. We pull away. We hesitate. We doubt. That's the brain protecting us. By learning to detect congruence versus incongruence, you become the person who sees through performance, through the sales pitch, through the "I'm fine." You hear what's real, and that gives you the power to respond instead of react. Now, let me give you a quick exercise. Next time you talk to someone, turn the sound off in your mind. Pretend you can't hear their words. Just watch. What are their hands doing? Are their shoulders high or relaxed? Are their feet pointing toward you or toward the door? Is their smile soft and natural or tight and forced? You'll be amazed at how much you pick up. Here's the takeaway. Every person is broadcasting a signal. Their words may be polished. Their sentences may be practiced. But their body always broadcasts the truth. And once you tune into that frequency, you'll never experience people the same way again. This is not about judging people. It's about understanding them. It's about honoring the unspoken. And when you learn the science behind these cues, your perception sharpens. You stop missing red flags. You stop chasing lukewarm opportunities. You stop getting blindsided by sudden shifts because you see it coming. And in that awareness, you rise. To read people like a book, you first have to see the pages. And most people never do. They're too distracted, too busy thinking about what to say next, too buried in their phones, too focused on themselves. But those who are truly powerful, magnetic, and influential in social settings, they observe, they watch everything. They listen not just to words, but to energy. They're tuned in. They catch the shift in tone, the flicker in someone's expression, the tension in someone's posture. And they respond, not react. That's observational awareness. And it's your new superpower. Let's get one thing straight. This is not about staring at people or overanalyzing every tiny move. It's about becoming present, fully present. In a world that constantly pulls your attention away, presence is rare. And that's what makes it powerful. Because the more present you are, the more data you collect. Not just visually, but emotionally, energetically, socially. Observation is about sensing the room, reading the atmosphere, and tuning into what most people miss. So, how do you sharpen this awareness? It starts with your attention. Most people have blurred attention. They're in a conversation, but they're thinking about what to say next. They're looking at you, but not seeing you. They're nodding, but not actually listening. This is how social cues slip by. You have to slow down your perception and speed up your sensitivity. Let's break this down. The first tool is what we'll call the observer's mindset. This is a conscious choice to step outside of your thoughts and into the moment. Think of it like switching from participant to analyst while still staying fully engaged. You're present, but you're watching. You're in the conversation, but you're also noticing. You're aware of the little things. The tap of a finger, the change in breath, the tilt of the head, the the way someone's face tightens at a certain topic. These details matter. They tell the story. Start by practicing this daily. When you walk into a room, pause. Scan the environment. Who's leading the energy? Who looks uncomfortable? Who's avoiding eye contact? Who's mirroring each other? You don't need to stare. Just notice. 5 seconds of intentional scanning can give you more insight than most people get in an hour of small talk. Next, focus on microbehaviors. These are the tiny, often involuntary movements people make. A twitch, a swallow, a blink, a glance, a lip press. These moments are the goldmine of emotional truth, and you won't see them unless you slow down your internal tempo. We live fast, we talk fast, we scroll fast, but to observe well, you have to slow your mind. When your internal state is calm, your awareness becomes razor sharp. Try this exercise. In your next conversation, say less and watch more. Focus on the person's facial muscles. Do they smile with their eyes or just their mouth? Is their expression matching their words? Does their body posture lean in or pull away? Is there fidgeting or are they relaxed? The key is to stay grounded in your body as you observe theirs. The next layer of sharpening your awareness is developing peripheral attention. That means expanding your awareness beyond just the person in front of you. What's happening in the group? How are people positioned? Who's getting the most eye contact? Who's holding tension in their shoulders? Where's the energy flowing in the room? This wide lens awareness makes you a master of social dynamics. You don't just notice individuals. You notice interactions. You start seeing who's influencing who. Here's another powerful practice. The silence game. Pick a moment, whether in a cafe, a waiting room, a meeting, and just sit in silence for 5 minutes. No phone, no talking, just observing. Watch people. Listen to the rhythm of conversations around you. Pay attention to tone, volume, pacing. What's the energy of the space? How are people moving? Who seems rushed? Who seems at ease? The more often you do this, the more you begin training your brain to pick up on subtle patterns. And soon, those patterns become second nature. Let's go deeper. Observational awareness is also emotional awareness. Can you sense tension even when no one's speaking? Can you feel when someone's mood shifts before they express it? Can you detect when someone's withholding? This isn't psychic ability. It's refined observation. It's tuning in so deeply that even the energy between the words becomes visible to you. That's what makes you powerful. That's what makes people trust you. Because when you see what others miss, people feel seen. And when people feel seen, they feel safe. That's the gateway to influence. Now, here's the final piece of this chapter, and it's big. The better you observe others, the better you'll understand yourself. When you begin noticing behavior patterns, discomfort cues, power dynamics, you start seeing your own. You realize when you avoid eye contact, when you shrink your voice, when you smile to please, when you fidget under pressure. And as your awareness grows, so does your self-mastery. You stop reacting. You start choosing. That's the secret no one tells you. The path to mastering others begins with mastering observation, and that begins with mastering presence. So sharpen your eyes, sharpen your ears, sharpen your attention, not to judge, not to manipulate, but to understand. Because the more you understand, the more effective you become in conversation, in influence, in leadership, and in life. If someone told you there was a language spoken by every person on earth, across every culture, in every country, in every generation, would you want to learn it? If they said this language reveals how someone truly feels, no matter what they say, would you take it seriously? That language exists. It's nonverbal communication. And once you understand it, people stop confusing you. Conversations become clear. Reactions make sense. Interactions reveal their true meaning. Because you're no longer just hearing people. You're reading them. Nonverbal communication is everything that isn't said, but still speaks. The tilt of a head, the distance someone keeps, the speed of their walk, the placement of their hands, their tone, their eyebrows, their posture. All of it is communication. All of it is telling a story. In fact, most of it is more honest than the word we speak. Let's say someone says they're happy to see you, but their arms are crossed, their smile is stiff, their eyes flick to the door, and their body leans away. Are they happy? Not really. Their mouth says yes, but their body says no. And here's what's fascinating. Your brain picks up on this contradiction instantly, even before you're conscious of it. That's why some people give you a weird feeling, even when they're polite. That's why you feel close to someone before they've said much. That's why trust and connection don't come from words alone. They come from alignment between what is said and what is shown. This is a foundation of reading people. Nonverbal congruence. When someone's words and body match, we trust them. When they don't match, we hesitate. And when we know what to look for, we stop guessing and start knowing. Let's look at the core components of nonverbal communication. There are 5 primary categories. 1. Kinesics, the language of movement. This includes gestures, facial expressions, posture, and body movements. For example, when someone shrugs, frowns, nods, or raises their eyebrows, these are kinesic signals. They reveal everything from emotion to intention to power dynamics. Even how someone walks tells you who they are. Are they slouched and dragging their feet, confident and upright, shifting constantly, or grounded and still? Each movement speaks. 2. Proxemics, the language of space. This is about how we use physical distance. How close someone stands says a lot about their comfort or discomfort. Different cultures have different boundaries, but in general, people create space when they feel anxious and move closer when they feel safe. If someone starts backing up as you speak, it's not random. It's a signal. Learn to respect space, and you'll gain instant trust. 3. Haptics, the language of touch. This includes handshakes, pats on the back, hugs, or even the absence of touch. A firm handshake signals confidence. A limp one signals insecurity or disinterest. A warm touch builds connection. But it must be appropriate. Too much, too soon, or in the wrong context, and it triggers discomfort. Touch is powerful, but it must be earned through trust. 4. Oculesics, the language of eye behavior. Eyes reveal so much: attention, attraction, dishonesty, fear, confidence. Eye contact builds connection. But too much can feel invasive. Too little can feel dishonest. The direction someone looks when answering can show whether they're remembering or fabricating. The dilation of pupils can indicate interest or arousal. You don't need to stare, but watch how their eyes move when emotions shift. That's where the real answers lie. 5. Paralanguage, the language behind the words. This refers to tone, pitch, pace, pauses, volume. It's not what someone says, it's how they say it. Think about the word, okay. Said flatly, it means indifference. Said sharply, it can mean anger. Said softly, it can mean sadness. The word doesn't change. The tone does. And tone is truth. Learn to hear beyond the words, and you'll always know what's really being said. Now, what makes nonverbal communication so powerful is that most of it is subconscious. People don't try to show their discomfort. Their body just leaks it. They don't mean to frown when they're frustrated. It just happens. That's why body language is more honest than speech. Words can be edited. The body tells on you. But you need to look at nonverbal cues in clusters. A single gesture doesn't mean much on its own. Crossed arms could just be cold. But crossed arms plus tight lips plus lack of eye contact, now that's a signal. Look for patterns. Don't jump to conclusions based on one cue. Combine 3 or more, and you've got a message. Let's talk real-life examples. In a business meeting, someone might say, "I'm excited about the project." But they lean back, avoid eye contact, and sigh. That's a disconnect. In dating, someone may say, "Let's hang out again." But their smile fades, and they look at their phone. Again, disconnect. In friendships, someone might say, "I'm fine," but their voice shakes and their eyes water. You see the pattern. Words lie. Tone and body do not. Once you see the silent language, you become socially fluent. You navigate situations more smoothly. You know when to lean in. You know when to back off. You sense when to ask more questions and when to say nothing. That's emotional intelligence in motion, and it makes you powerful. Because people trust those who read the room. They respect those who understand without judgment. They open up to those who listen with their eyes. And here's the real beauty. When you understand this language, you don't just read others. You also express yourself more powerfully. You become aware of your own nonverbals. You start noticing your posture, your tone, your timing. You start adjusting, not to manipulate, but to communicate with impact and empathy. This is what separates average communicators from unforgettable ones. Not just what they say, but how they say it, how they show up, how they move with awareness. So if you want to be truly influential, learn to speak the silent language. Because once you do, nothing in human behavior is ever random again. You see intention. You see emotion. You see the truth, whether it's said or not. And that you've seen it before. That quick flash of something in someone's face. A flicker of anger. A split-second smirk. A moment of sadness that disappears so fast you wonder if you imagined it. You didn't. You saw a microexpression. These tiny, involuntary facial expressions reveal exactly what someone is feeling, even if they're trying to hide it. And once you learn to spot them, you will begin to see the truth that most people miss. Let's start with what a microexpression actually is. It's a brief, involuntary facial expression that occurs within a fraction of a second, often between 1/25th and 1/5 of a second. That's faster than the blink of an eye. These expressions are universal. They're hardwired into the human brain. No matter your language, culture, or upbringing, your face reacts in the same way when you feel a genuine emotion. It's part of our biology, and it happens before the conscious brain has time to fake it. Here's the magic of microexpressions. They reveal what someone truly feels in real time, before they cover it up, before they mask it, before they smooth their face into something socially acceptable. This is raw emotional data, unfiltered, unrehearsed, real. Now, there are 7 core emotions that show up as microexpressions. These are known as the universal facial expressions, and they've been studied extensively in psychology, especially by Dr. Paul Ekman, the pioneer in this field. The 7 are happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust, and contempt. Each of these emotions has a unique facial signature. Let's break them down. Happiness shows in the full smile. Not just the mouth, but the eyes. The corners of the eyes crinkle. The cheeks lift. A fake smile only uses the mouth. A real smile uses the whole face. Sadness shows in a downturned mouth, drooping eyelids, and a slight frown of the eyebrows. It can flash for just a moment before someone quickly recovers with polite expression. Anger shows in tight lips, flared nostrils, lowered eyebrows, and tense jaw muscles. It might flash when someone hears a criticism or disagrees with something, but they don't speak up. You'll see it before they control it. Fear shows in wide eyes, raised eyebrows, and a slightly open mouth. It's often paired with frozen posture or backward movement. It may flash when someone feels threatened, judged, or caught. Surprise looks similar to fear, but without tension. Eyebrows rise, eyes widen, and the mouth opens, but the body doesn't lock up. Surprise is more open, less defensive. Disgust appears when the nose wrinkles, the upper lip lifts, and the face twists slightly. It might flash if someone hears something offensive, smells something bad, or reacts to a person or idea they instinctively reject. Contempt is the only asymmetrical expression. One corner of the mouth rises, usually on the right. It's a smirk, not a smile. It signals superiority, disrespect, or dismissal. Now here's what makes microexpressions so powerful. They're honest. People can control what they say. They can rehearse their tone. They can fake a smile. But they cannot stop a microexpression from leaking out, not without extreme training. Even spies, trained actors, and experienced liars have a hard time hiding them. That's why microexpressions are your best friend in reading people. They let you see the emotion someone feels. Even if they deny it, you say something, and for a split second they look angry before smiling politely. You give an idea and you catch a flash of contempt and they say, "Interesting." You mention a name and you see sadness flicker in their eyes. Then they act neutral. These flashes are data. They're gold. But to catch them, you need to slow down your perception. This doesn't mean you stare at people waiting for something to happen. It means you stay present, grounded, and observant. You watch their face as they react to words, questions, topics. You look for flashes, sudden shifts in their expression that don't match their words. Here's a trick. Ask a question and watch, not just listen. Ask, "How do you feel about that deal?" and observe their face before they answer. Ask, "Are you okay with this arrangement?" and catch the emotion before the words come. Because that half-second expression, that blink and you miss it moment, is where the truth lives. It takes practice. In the beginning, you'll miss them. But over time, you'll start seeing them. And once you do, you can't unsee them. You'll notice them in meetings, in interviews, in dates, in friendships, in family dinners. Everywhere. It's like having emotional X-ray vision. Now, here's the next level. Once you spot the microexpression, pause internally. Don't call it out. Don't say, "You just looked angry." Instead, register it. Note the disconnect between their face and their words. Then use that awareness to guide your response. If someone flashes anger, maybe you soften your tone. If someone flashes fear, maybe you clarify to make them feel safe. If someone flashes contempt, maybe you change direction or call out the tension more diplomatically. This is what emotional intelligence looks like in motion. Reading, adjusting, influencing. Without force, without guessing, just awareness. One final point. Be kind with this skill. Don't weaponize it. Don't use it to corner people or trap them. Use it to understand them. Use it to lead with empathy. Because when people feel seen without being judged, they trust you. And trust is what opens a door to real connection, honest communication, and influence. So remember, the face leaks what the heart feels. It leaks fast. It leaks real. And if you can read that leak, you're ahead of the game. Because in a world where so many people hide, you'll be the one who sees. Let's step into a room together. It could be a meeting, a classroom, a social event. Now pause. Before a single word is spoken, something interesting is already happening. The way people sit, the distance they keep, the angle of their shoulders, the way one person stands with open arms while another folds inward. These are not random behaviors. These are status signals. This is how we silently communicate power, safety, insecurity, dominance, and respect. In this chapter, you'll learn to decode the most primal, yet most overlooked signals in the social world: posture, proximity, and power dynamics. Let's begin with posture. Posture is one of the most immediate ways we assess confidence, authority, and emotional state. When someone walks into a room upright, with shoulders back, head aligned, and movements calm and intentional, our brains register confidence. We may not consciously analyze it, but we feel it. That person becomes magnetic without saying a word. Now contrast that with someone who's hunched over, arms wrapped around their body, eyes down, steps hesitant. Our brain instantly reads, low confidence, low power. Posture shapes perception, and perception drives respect. In fact, posture doesn't just affect how others see us. It affects how we see ourselves. Amy Cuddy's research on power poses shows that standing in expansive, open postures for even 2 minutes can boost confidence and reduce stress hormones. So posture isn't just expression, it's influence. Influence over others and over yourself. So what should you look for? Start with the spine. Is it straight or collapsed? Is the chest open or caved in? Watch the shoulders. Are they relaxed or tense? Raised or slumped? Notice the head position. Tilted down in submission? Pulled back in judgment? Aligned and grounded in calm? Even seated posture matters. Does someone take up space when they sit, arms spread, legs confidently positioned? Or are they minimized, legs crossed tightly, arms held close, as if trying to disappear? These posture choices are signals, not judgments, just messages. And once you read the messages, you start understanding where people are emotionally and socially without them having to say anything. Now, let's move to proximity, the physical distance between people. We don't often think about it, but distance is powerful communication. We instinctively create space based on comfort, status, familiarity, and intention. There are generally 4 zones of proximity. Intimate space, 0 to 18 inches. Reserved for lovers, close family, deep trust. Entering the zone without permission feels invasive. Personal space, 1.5 to 4 feet. This is where close friends, trusted colleagues, and familiar people interact. Social space, 4 to 12 feet, where acquaintances, co-workers, and strangers typically operate. Public space, beyond 12 feet, used for public speaking or when no interaction is intended. But here's where it gets interesting. When someone enters your personal space without rapport, your brain flags it as a threat. You may feel anxious, irritated, or defensive, and you might not even know why. That's proximity at work. It's primal. Now flip it. If someone steps away during a conversation, increasing space, your brain reads disinterest, discomfort, or disengagement. Their body is literally trying to create safety or distance. By observing how people use space, you understand how they feel about you, about the topic, about the situation. Proximity also reveals relationship dynamics. In a group, people naturally cluster closer to those they feel connected to. Watch where people face, who they lean toward, who they move away from. That's social mapping without words. Now combine posture and proximity, and you get the full picture of power dynamics. Power is always being negotiated in social settings, even subtly. High-status individuals often take up more space. They sit or stand comfortably, expand their arms, hold their gaze longer, and use deliberate movements. Low-status individuals make themselves smaller, fidget more, avoid eye contact, and mirror others more than they lead. Think about leaders you've seen. They often walk slowly, take their time to respond, and make others lean in. That's not arrogance. It's high-status signaling. They don't need to rush. Their posture and proximity command attention. In contrast, someone trying to impress may overtalk, lean in too far, laugh too hard, or shift nervously. Their posture betrays their insecurity. And again, this isn't about judging people. It's about reading the dynamic. Here's another layer. In conflict, posture and proximity shift dramatically. A person standing tall and leaning in aggressively may be trying to dominate. Someone stepping back with crossed arms may be withdrawing or protecting themselves. In arguments, people who raise themselves, standing while others sit, towering over, widening their stance, are often asserting power. Those who lower themselves, sitting down, turning sideways, shrinking in posture, are often signaling vulnerability or defense. Once you begin watching these patterns, social dynamics become visible. You'll see the unspoken hierarchy. You'll notice who is trying to lead, who is resisting, who is seeking approval, who is unsure, and who is silently in charge. Now, let's talk about how to use this awareness. First, check your own posture and proximity. Are you sending the signals you intend to send? Are you open, grounded, confident? Or are you closed, rushed, and reactive? Adjusting your posture even slightly can change how others treat you and how you feel inside. Second, in conversations, respect proximity. Don't invade space. If someone pulls back, don't lean in more. Give space. Let your awareness lead your actions. You'll be seen as more respectful, more intuitive, and more trustworthy. Third, use posture to de-escalate tension. Lower your shoulders. Soften your face. Keep your body relaxed. This creates safety, and safety builds influence. Finally, in leadership, remember that power doesn't mean intimidation. The most magnetic leaders are those who embody calm power, stillness, openness, presence. They don't overtalk. They don't perform. Their posture says, I'm here, I'm grounded, I see you. And people follow that. Because in the end, posture and proximity aren't just about power. They're about presence. And presence is what people remember long after the conversation. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul. And they are. But more than that, the eyes are a mirror to the mind. You can fake a smile. You can rehearse your tone. You can train your posture. But the eyes, no matter how controlled, leak truth. They reflect thought, emotion, intention. And once you know how to read them, you can spot lies, detect interest, recognize discomfort, and feel a connection without a single word spoken. The eyes tell the story. And the best readers? They know where to look. Let's begin with the basics. Eye contact is one of the most immediate and powerful cues in any social interaction. It shows attention. It shows presence. It builds trust. But there's a line. Too little eye contact makes you seem evasive, insecure, or disinterested. Too much, and it can feel aggressive, invasive, or socially unaware. The sweet spot is dynamic. In a natural conversation, good eye contact is intermittent, held for a few seconds, then broken to think, then returned. This rhythm creates safety. It mirrors real emotional exchange. In contrast, staring unbroken feels robotic. Constantly looking away feels disconnected. Your goal is not to hold eye contact perfectly. Your goal is to use it consciously. Now, let's look at the meaning behind eye movement. Eyes don't just look. They reveal what's happening beneath the surface. When someone looks directly at you while speaking, they're usually confident in what they're saying. But if they suddenly avert their gaze at a specific moment, say, when answering a direct question, it might signal discomfort, doubt, or dishonesty. It's important not to make assumptions too quickly. People break eye contact for many reasons: shyness, cultural norms, overthinking, even respect. But when you combine eye shift with other cues, like vocal hesitation, fidgeting, or facial tension, you begin to see patterns. And patterns reveal truth. Here's something fascinating. The direction of someone's gaze while thinking often corresponds to the type of mental processing they're doing. This is based on research in neurolinguistic programming, and while it's not a guaranteed lie detector, it gives insight into how someone is thinking. For most right-handed people, looking up and to the left suggests they're remembering something visual, like a face or a place. Looking up and to the right suggests they're constructing something visually, like imagining or fabricating an image. Looking sideways to the left often signals remembering a sound. To the right, constructing a sound. Down to the left, they may be talking to themselves internally. Down to the right, they're accessing emotions or physical feelings. So what does this mean in practice? Let's say you ask someone, "Did you talk to her yesterday?" And they immediately look up and to the right before answering. That doesn't prove they're lying, but it suggests they're constructing rather than recalling. If this happens repeatedly in high-stakes situations and the rest of their body language aligns with discomfort, you may want to question further. But here's the key: never base conclusion on one cue. Always look for clusters. Now, let's talk about pupil dilation. Pupils react to light, yes, but they also react to emotion. When someone is interested, engaged, or aroused, their pupils dilate. This is subtle but powerful. In romantic settings, you can see pupil dilation as someone becomes more connected. In deception, pupils may constrict slightly under stress. It's not easy to spot without training, but it adds one more layer to your understanding. The speed of blinking also matters. Rapid blinking can signal anxiety, stress, or dishonesty. Extremely slow blinking might signal boredom or detachment. Someone listening attentively blinks less. Someone under pressure may blink more. Then there's eye blocking, the act of covering the eyes, squinting hard, or looking away sharply. These are subconscious attempts to shield oneself from something uncomfortable. If someone covers their eyes right after hearing bad news, it's not drama, it's instinct. If someone closes their eyes when answering, they may be trying to block your reaction or disconnect from what they're saying. That's emotional leakage in action. Let's move to one of the most important signals: gaze direction in group dynamics. Who someone looks at in a room says everything about status, interest, and influence. In a meeting, the person most looked at is often the most powerful. In a social setting, the person people glance at before laughing is usually the emotional leader. In dating, mutual gaze with dilated pupils, that's interest. In arguments, eye avoidance paired with stiff posture, that's withdrawal. And now, let's explore blinking and baseline behavior. Every person has a default eye behavior: how they blink, how long they maintain gaze, their normal eye movement when comfortable. Once you learn someone's baseline, spotting a change becomes much easier. For example, if someone normally holds steady eye contact, but suddenly starts looking away often, it signals a shift, and the shift is where your attention should go. Let's be clear, Not everyone uses their eyes the same way. Some cultures emphasize less eye contact out of respect. Some individuals on the spectrum, or with anxiety, may struggle with eye contact. This is why empathy must be your anchor. Reading eyes isn't about judging. It's about understanding. It's about being present enough to notice, compassionate enough to interpret, and wise enough to respond with care. Now, here's how you apply this in real conversations. Start observing people's eye behavior when they're relaxed. Watch how long they look at others, how quickly they glance away when challenged, whether they look up to think or down to feel. Notice what their eyes do right before they speak. Train yourself to watch, not to invade privacy, but to tune into truth, because in every glance there's information. Every blink carries emotion. Every flicker of the eyes says something that the mouth might not dare to say. And once you learn to read this, your emotional fluency skyrockets. You catch lies others miss. You detect attraction, doubt, curiosity, discomfort, and more importantly, you feel the emotional landscape unfolding in real time. That's what gives you presence. That's what builds trust. That's what makes people feel like you get them, often without saying a word. Because in truth, the most powerful communication happens in silence. And the most powerful readers, they watch the eyes. Because the eyes, no matter what, is the one part of the body that doesn't lie. We've all been there. That moment where someone says something and a little voice in your gut whispers, that doesn't feel right. The smile looks forced. The tone is too smooth. The story's too perfect. But you doubt yourself. You wonder if you're imagining it. You don't want to accuse. So you let it go. Later, the truth comes out, and you say to yourself, I knew it. What you felt was real. What you noticed was real. And what you missed was confirmation. In this chapter, we're going to talk about lies, how to recognize them, how to separate truth from fiction, how to spot the signs before the damage is done. Not so you can become paranoid, not so you can interrogate people, but so you can protect your trust, your time, and your energy from those who try to deceive. Let's begin with the truth about lying. Most people are not very good at it, contrary to what Hollywood shows us. Even practiced liars leak signals. Their body betrays them. Their voice changes. Their behavior shifts. The problem is not that liars are too good. The problem is that listeners don't know what to look for. So let's fix that. There's no single gesture that proves a lie. But when multiple red flags show up together, especially when they deviate from a person's normal behavior, that's your clue. The first and most common signal? Behavioral inconsistency. When someone lies, their words often don't match their tone, facial expression, or body language. They say they're happy, but their face is tense. They say they're sure, but their voice wavers. They say of course, but they fidget like crazy. It's that mismatch your intuition picks up on, even if your logic can't explain it. Trust that. The second signal? Too much detail. When people tell the truth, they usually speak in natural, straightforward sentences. But when people lie, they often try to over-explain. They add extra information to make their story sound more convincing. You ask a simple question like, did you go out last night? And instead of saying no, they launch into a long story about where they were, who they texted, what they were wearing, what time they went to bed. Too much detail is often a smokescreen. It's not what they're saying. It's why they're saying so much. Next, watch for changes in baseline behavior. Everyone has a natural way of talking, moving, and reacting when they're relaxed. When that changes, abruptly and noticeably, that's a signal. Does their voice get higher? Do they blink more rapidly? Do they stop using their hands when they speak? Do they suddenly freeze? Do they touch their face, rub their neck, or shield their mouth? These behaviors, on their own, are not lies. But if someone suddenly shifts from calm and open to nervous and guarded the moment a sensitive topic is raised, pay attention. Let's talk about eye behavior, briefly, since we covered it in the last chapter. Liars often overcompensate. They may avoid eye contact, but they may also try to force eye contact because they think it makes them look honest. Either extreme, staring too much or avoiding completely, can be a red flag, especially when paired with tension in the rest of the face. And don't forget microexpressions. Those quick flashes of emotion that leak out before someone can fake their face. If someone says they're not mad, but you catch a flash of contempt. If someone says they're fine, but you see a microexpression of fear, the body just told the truth. Listen to it. Another key indicator is verbal distancing. Liars often try to create space between themselves and their lie. They may use vague language. They may avoid saying I or me. Instead of saying, I took the money, they'll say, the money was taken. That shift to passive language removes ownership. It sounds subtle, but it signals guilt. And here's one of the most overlooked signals: defensiveness without cause. When someone gets unusually defensive over a simple question, it may not be because they're being attacked. It may be because they feel exposed. You ask, did you email her yesterday? And they snap, why are you asking me that? It's an innocent question, but they react like you accuse them. That's not logic. That's fear leaking out. Now, how do you test truth without confrontation? Use the truth trap. Ask the same question in different ways, at different points in the conversation. Liars often can't keep their story straight. Truth is consistent. Lies crack under pressure. You can also ask about unexpected details. Truthful people recall sensory information, what they saw, heard, smelled, because they were really there. Liars struggle with sensory recall because they weren't. Ask, what music was playing? Or what color was the wall? If the story breaks down, they're improvising. Finally, and this is important, observe your own physical response. Your body is wise. When something feels off, you often feel it first in your gut, your chest, or your breath. Don't dismiss it. You don't have to accuse. You don't have to react. Just file it. Revisit it. Watch closely from that point forward. Because when a lie begins to unravel, it always starts small. So what should you do with this skill? Use it to protect, not punish. Use it to create clarity, not conflict. Use it to walk away faster from manipulation and move toward honesty, toward safety, toward truth. Because the world doesn't need more suspicion. It needs more awareness. And when you become someone who sees the truth, not because you demand it, but because you feel it, people respect you. Some fear you, but the right people, they trust you because they know they can't fake it with you. And that's the kind of power no one can take away. Let's take a moment and imagine someone says the words, I'm fine. Now, say those words out loud, softly, firmly, sarcastically, emotionally. Same words, entirely different messages. That's the power of vocal tone. It's the emotional fingerprint behind what people say. And if you want to master social cues, you can't just focus on words. You have to listen to how they're said. Because tone, subtle, often ignored, is one of the clearest windows into truth, trust, tension, and emotion. Tone is the music behind the message. And like music, it creates feeling, it signals meaning. It carries energy. Someone can say, I love that, and sound joyful, neutral, bored, or even hostile, depending on tone alone. And when tone clashes with words, people believe the tone every single time. That's why in this chapter, you'll learn how to read tone, not just hear it, how to detect emotion, how to sense when something's off, and how to adjust your own tone to build trust, credibility, and connection. Let's start with the fundamentals. Vocal tone is made up of several elements: pitch, pace, volume, inflection, and resonance. Let's break these down one by one. Pitch is the highness or lowness of your voice. When someone is nervous, their pitch often rises, especially at the end of sentences. Think of a person saying, no, I didn't do it, but the last word lifts like a question. That rising pitch signals uncertainty, even if the words say confidence. Pace is the speed at which someone speaks. When people are anxious or lying, they often speak too quickly, or they suddenly slow down to think through a fabricated story. In contrast, calm, confident people speak at a steady, controlled pace. They're not in a rush. They don't try to fill silence. They own the space. Volume signals intensity. Raised volume can show excitement, but it can also mask insecurity. Very quiet speech may signal shyness or guilt. Volume needs to match context. If someone is unusually loud or unusually soft compared to their norm. That shift is telling you something. Inflection is a pattern of rising and falling in speech. Natural inflection shows engagement, interest, and emotional range. Flat, monotone delivery often signals detachment, disinterest, or emotional suppression. Resonance is the richness and vibration of someone's voice. A voice that resonates deeply tends to convey authority and calm. A thin, shaky voice may reflect tension or lack of grounding. So now that you understand the elements, let's talk about how to read them. When someone speaks, ask yourself, does their tone match their words? Are they rushing or dragging? Are they too loud for the situation? Is their pitch rising when it shouldn't? Are they speaking from their chest or just their throat? Now, let's put this into context. Say you're in a conversation and someone says, "Yeah, it's no big deal," but their tone is sharp, clipped, and fast. That's not detachment. That's irritation. Or someone says, "I'm happy for you," but their voice is flat and low. That's not joy. That's hidden resentment. These moments are tiny fractures in communication, but they hold huge emotional weight because tone reveals what the words are trying to hide. You'll often find that people aren't lying with their words, but they're leaking truth through their sound. And this works in both directions. Let's shift now from reading tone to using tone. Your vocal tone is your instrument of influence. If your voice is too fast, too high, too strained, people feel rushed or nervous around you. If your voice is too flat or quiet, they may tune out. But if your voice is grounded, paced, and emotionally attuned, people feel safe. They feel drawn in. They listen longer. They trust more. Here's how to tune your own tone like a pro. First, breathe. Shallow breath leads a thin, anxious voice. Deep breath leads a full, calm tone. Speak from your diaphragm, not your throat. Second, slow down. Confident people don't race. They pause. They give space. They know silence is part of communication. Third, match emotion to message. When you're excited, let your voice brighten. When you're serious, let settle. But always stay in control. Never let emotion overtake clarity. Fourth, record yourself. Seriously, most people have no idea what they sound like. Listen back. Do you sound rushed? Sharp? Dull? Train your tone like a musician trains their ear. Let's talk now about tonal mismatches, moments where words and voice contradict. Someone says, "I'm really excited," but they sound bored. They say, "That's fine," but it comes out tight and sharp. They say, "Let's do it," but their voice trails off in hesitation. These moments are micro-conflicts between language and sound, and they almost always signal internal conflict. If you hear it, don't confront it. Observe it. It's your cue that there's more beneath the surface. And here's a high-level insight. Leaders, therapists, negotiators, they all master tone. Not because they want to manipulate, but because they want to guide emotion. When a leader lowers their tone, people listen. When a therapist softens their tone, people open up. When a negotiator calibrates their tone to the moment, deals move forward. Tone is not about acting. It's about alignment. It's about making sure your voice carries the truth of your intention. And when it does, people feel it. They may not know why they feel connected, respected, moved, but they will feel it. Because tone doesn't ask for attention. It earns it. So in your next conversation, listen beyond the words. Hear the rise and fall. Feel the energy behind the sound. Notice how your voice lands. Because once you master tone, you don't just speak. You resonate. And people don't just hear you, they feel you. That's the difference between being heard and being remembered. There's something ancient about the way hands move when we talk. Before language, before writing, before we had complex grammar or speeches, we had hands. They pointed, they reached, they offered, they warned, and they still do. Even now, in the modern world of text and screens, hands continue to speak volumes. If you know how to read them, you may not realize it, but you already pick up on hand signals every day. You notice when someone fidgets. You feel the energy when someone talks with wide, expressive gestures. You sense withdrawal when someone hides their hands. It's not random. It's biology. It's psychology. It's communication, in its rawest form. In this chapter, we're going to explore the unspoken power of hand gestures, how they reveal comfort or tension, truth or deception, confidence or insecurity. And by the end, you'll be able to spot what others miss and express yourself with more presence, clarity, and impact. Let's begin with a simple but powerful principle. When the hands are visible, people feel safe. It goes back to survival. In ancient times, the first thing you needed to assess in a stranger was whether they were holding a weapon. If you couldn't see their hands, you didn't feel safe. That instinct is still with us. So when someone hides their hands, puts them in their pockets, folds them tightly, or keeps them under the table, our subconscious brain wonders, what are they hiding? It's not always deception. Sometimes it's just nerves. But either way, it creates distance. On the flip side, open palms signal trust and honesty. When someone speaks with their palms up, it suggests openness. They're inviting. They're not concealing anything. Politicians and speakers often use open hand gestures to connect. It calms the room. It earns trust. Now compare that to closed or downward palms. A downward palm gesture is more dominant. It's used to control, to assert. Imagine a manager saying, "Let's move on," with a hand pressing down. That's authority. It's not wrong, but it's less collaborative in the open palm gesture. Let's talk about pointing. Pointing is a high-intensity gesture. It's sharp. It can feel aggressive. It directs attention, but also pressure. When someone points at you in conversation, even jokingly, it can feel confrontational. It's one of those gestures you want to use with caution. Better to guide with an open hand than to point like a weapon. Now consider fidgeting hands. When someone is nervous, unsure, or uncomfortable, the hands start to move unconsciously. They may rub together, pick at fingers, adjust clothing, tap, twist. These gestures leak emotional energy. You'll often see it in interviews, in high-stakes conversations, or during dishonesty. Again, don't jump to conclusions. One nervous gesture doesn't mean someone is lying. But cluster of fidgety behaviors, paired with shifts in voice, posture, or gaze, tells a story. Let's go deeper. Hand-to-face gestures are especially revealing. When people lie or feel guilty, they often touch their nose, rub their eyes, or cover their mouth. It's the brain's attempt to block out discomfort. Children do this instinctively. Adults do it more subtly, but the signal is still there. Someone says, "I'm telling you the truth," but their fingers touch their lips. That's a red flag. Or they say, "Everything's fine," but they scratch their neck while speaking. That gesture isn't random. It's leakage. One of the most offensive hand gestures is crossed arms. When someone crosses their arms across their chest, especially tightly, it often signals protection or resistance. They're closing themselves off. They're not open to the moment. Again, it's not always negative. Some people cross their arms out of habit or comfort, but in a tense conversation, that gesture adds emotional weight. It says, "I'm not fully with you right now." Contrast that with steepling. When someone brings their fingertips together like a church steeple, that gesture signals confidence, calm, even authority. You'll see it in confident speakers, CEOs, even psychologists. It's composed, it's still, and it radiates thoughtfulness. When someone steeples their fingers while listening, it says, "I'm evaluating, I'm grounded, I'm in control." Let's look at gesture size. Big, expansive gestures usually indicate confidence and emotional engagement. When someone spreads their arms wide while talking, they're passionate, present, and often persuasive. Think of a motivational speaker. Small, restricted gestures, on the other hand, can signal caution, shyness, or discomfort. If someone holds their hands close to their body while speaking, they may be trying not to draw attention, or they may feel uncertain about their words. What about mirroring? When two people are in sync, they often mirror each other's hand gestures unconsciously. One gestures, the other follows. It's a nonverbal dance that says, "We're connected." You can even use mirroring intentionally to build rapport. Just don't overdo it. Subtle is powerful. Here's a tip for your own communication. Keep your hands visible when you speak. Avoid putting them in pockets or hiding them under the table. Use open palm gestures when making a point. Let your hands naturally follow your emotions, but keep them calm, smooth, and deliberate. Hand gestures are like punctuation for your voice. They emphasize, they frame, they express, but above all, they make you feel real to the person listening. In a world full of scripted words and rehearsed statements, genuine hand gestures bring life to your communication. They say, I'm here, I'm human, I'm honest, and people feel that. So whether you're reading someone else or refining your own presence, watch the hands. Because hands are truth tellers, and in silence, they speak louder than words. Silence is uncomfortable for some. For others, it's magnetic. But whether we notice it or not, silence is a language of its own. And the pause, strategic, thoughtful, intentional, is one of the most powerful social cues a person can master. You've heard it before, in conversation, in music, in storytelling. That brief, suspended moment where nothing is said, but everything is felt. That's the pause. It draws attention. It creates weight. It gives people space to reflect, to respond, and most of all, to feel. In this chapter, we'll explore why silence isn't empty, why it can be more persuasive than argument, more influential than volume, and how the pause, when used correctly, becomes a tool of connection, control, and confidence. Let's begin by stating something obvious, but often ignored. Most people are afraid of silence. They rush to fill it. They talk over it. They interpret it as awkward or worse, weakness. But that's not true. In fact, it's often the opposite. The person most comfortable with silence is usually the one in control. Think of the most charismatic speakers you've heard. They don't race through their words. They don't ramble. They pause. They let a message land. They allow silence to do its job. That job? Creating tension and space. Let's break that down. A pause creates tension because the human brain craves resolution. When someone stops speaking, just for a second, we lean in. We want to know what's next. The silence grabs our attention. It forces the listener to engage. That's why great storytellers pause before delivering the punchline. That's why skilled negotiators go quiet after making an offer. That's why confident people don't rush to respond. They let silence work for them. And then there's the second job of silence, creating space. A pause gives emotional space. It allows your listener to digest what you just said. It gives meaning room to settle. It slows the pace, deepens a moment, and makes conversation more human. Let's say someone tells you something difficult, something emotional or painful. If you rush to speak, to fix, to comfort, you may unintentionally miss the depth of what they're sharing. But if you pause just for a breath, you're telling them, I hear you, I'm with you, I respect this moment. Silence in that context is empathy, it's presence, it's powerful. Now let's shift to another perspective, the internal power of pausing. A pause gives you control. When you pause before answering, you create time to think. You lower the chance of reacting emotionally. You prevent saying things you might regret. You step out of automatic mode and into intention. In a debate, the person who pauses commands a room. In an argument, the person who pauses appears calm, centered, unshaken. In leadership, pausing signals wisdom. It says, I don't need to rush. I trust my words. I choose them. So, how do you develop this skill? Start by getting comfortable with silence. Practice saying a sentence and then pausing. Let the silence linger, even if it feels awkward. Say, here's the truth. Pause. Say, I want to tell you something important. Pause. The longer the silence, within reason, the more people listen. But be intentional. Don't overuse it. Don't pause after every sentence. Use it when it matters. Use it when you want impact. Here's a technique. Breathe between thoughts. When you pause, don't freeze or fidget. Just breathe. Let that breath guide your pacing. Let it regulate your tone. Let it ground you in the moment, because silence isn't absence. It's presence. It's the opposite of panic. It's the opposite of trying too hard. Now, let's talk about the most underrated power of silence, reclaiming attention. If you're speaking and people start tuning out, don't raise your voice. Pause. Let the silence bring them back. It works. People feel the drop in energy. They look up. They reconnect. Because silence is unfamiliar. And unfamiliarity creates alertness. In relationships, pausing can shift dynamics. When you're hurt or triggered, and you pause instead of lashing out, you shift the energy. When you pause before responding to criticism, you show emotional maturity. When you pause after receiving praise, you allow yourself to fully receive it instead of deflecting. In every case, the pause makes you more aware, more deliberate, more grounded. Now, let's address the myth that silence is weakness. Some people believe if they don't answer quickly, they'll seem unprepared. Or if they don't keep talking, they'll lose influence. But here's the truth. People who fear silence often fear judgment. They talk to protect themselves. They speak to avoid vulnerability. But once you become comfortable with silence, you become magnetic. People sense your calm. They feel your confidence. They follow your rhythm. Because the pause shows you're not afraid of space. You're not afraid to be seen. And most importantly, you're not afraid to listen. So next time you're in a conversation, pause. When someone asks you a difficult question, pause. When you're about to react emotionally, pause. Let the silence speak. Let it settle the energy. Let it reveal what noise tries to hide. Because in a world addicted to speed, the pause is rebellion. In a world full of noise, silence is signal. And in communication, the person who masters the pause masters the moment.